Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Soul Space. Today is Monday, May 20th, and today we're going to talk about the astrology for the mid-month of May to the end of May, the full moon we have coming in, and a bunch more stuff. So get yourself settled so you can listen or watch whatever you're doing. I am on all podcast platforms, and we'll talk a little astrology today. So today, I apologize, I'm not live. However, I will be next week, and still can bring you the latest in all of the astrology news and then some. So we've got a lot of big things happening this month. It's so exciting. And the biggest thing that's happening this month is Jupiter goes into Gemini. And I'm really excited about this because eventually, once it reaches a certain degree, it is going to transit my 7th house, which is the house of relationships, as you all know. And I can't wait to see what kind of abundance and joy it brings. So let's talk Jupiter a little bit first, because that is one of my favorite planets. I'm a Sagittarius rising. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is a big, expansive planet. It's one of the largest planets in the universe, in the zodiac that we know of. And it has a lot of gas to it. It's expansive. So the energy of Jupiter is one usually of good luck and benevolence. It will expand anything that it touches in the chart. When I see where Jupiter is in your chart, it actually tells me a lot about your life and your soul's intention and your personality. A lot of times where I see Jupiter will also tell me about your identity and your belief systems, how your identity relates to what you believe and the way that you actually interpret and believe things. Also, and this is the most important thing about Jupiter, is where Jupiter is in the chart and what house and sign it's in oftentimes will tell us how we receive messages from a higher power, whether that's God or Buddha or Kuan Yin or aliens or whatever you believe your higher power to be. Where Jupiter is in the chart, it really shows us how we interpret messages from the divine and what the divine means to us. For instance, as Jupiter is in an earth sign for you, you'll be very drawn to nature, and God will speak to you through nature. If you are an air sign, many times it will feel like you get your messages just cognitively in your head and in your thoughts process. So it's really interesting to see where Jupiter is in the chart and work with Jupiter. As a matter of fact, Jupiter in Gemini, which is an air sign, is an area of our life where ever Gemini is in the chart, that's where you communicate and you're naturally curious about things. It's also where we have our power and our soul's intention is amplified to follow a dream, an imagination, a wish, because Jupiter really does want to bring us forward. It's welcoming energy to the future. Sometimes when we work with Jupiter, because it's such an expansive planet and it's a planet that welcomes in the future, welcomes in our higher mind, our education, our ideas of where we want to go to in life and things we aspire to and new perspectives. Because it's that type of energy, many times working with Jupiter, we can unblock things and we can, really get to the bottom of why we procrastinate or why we've delayed a certain dream or something in our life. Jupiter is also the planet of imagination. And if anyone who's ever had a dream that's ever come true or a goal that you've ever reached, you know that it begins with an imagination. It begins with something that you imagine and dream, right? Look at all the Disney movies and all of the things that Walt Disney created, or the artists, great artists of our time and great artists in history. Everything starts out with something in the imagination. So Jupiter is a planet that will expand that. So working with Jupiter also means truth. Jupiter is a planet of awakening. It's a planet of seeing what is true. And because of that, sometimes when Jupiter is very prominent, or we're having a Jupiter transit or Jupiter in a sign like Gemini, we'll bring in the world truth and global truth. And we'll start to see a lot of things that were belief systems that we really hung our hat on, or that we really depended on, really being questioned. And we'll find that things will suddenly take on a new perspective in our life, or we'll suddenly have thoughts or imagine things to be a certain way that we never thought possible. Jupiter is things expanding beyond what we think they are and going into a realm of, full potential in our wildest dreams. So I've actually developed a class to help us work with the Jupiter energy. And that class I'm going to tell you a little bit about. I'm going to share my screen here and just show you this particular graphic. So I've set up a class. I hope you can see this online. I can't tell yet because I am still in the recording phase. So Jupiter in Gemini is a great time for us to work with our inner truth and awaken our own abundance, because Jupiter in Gemini gives us a life-changing energy. And this is an energy that hasn't been around for a really long time. Jupiter does run on a 12 to 14-year cycle around the zodiac, usually spends about a year in a sign. So Jupiter in Gemini for the next 12, 13 months is really going to give us an opportunity to get our engines ready and put the wind in our sails for those goals that we have felt stuck in the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of the energy is changing, and we've got Pluto in Aquarius, which just went in January. And Jupiter is going to make a trine to Pluto, which will really bring our desires to the surface and help us see the truth of our desires, and also give us the potential to have the staying power to accomplish those things that we never really could have gotten to completion before. So in this astrology seminar, although you can be a complete beginner, you don't have to know any astrology at all to be in this online course, you will learn how to harness the energy of Jupiter for your higher purpose, and how to work with Jupiter over the next year. I'll give you key dates on what to watch for when you're working with the Jupiter energy. And also the energy of Jupiter in Gemini brings us some really interesting and unique prospects where we can not only follow our dreams, but also see the truth of those dreams and understand in that truth why we haven't been able to follow through or really get to where we need to be. And that energy doesn't just have to be a goal or something that you're dreaming about. That energy can also be something that you're trying to break through. Maybe it's a relationship that you're trying to detach from or make better, or maybe it's a career or a job that you're trying to walk away from in order to, fulfill your real soul potential. Whatever it is that you want to move forward in, this three-week online course will help you. Now, when I say 3-week course, that means because we're going to meet for 3 mastermind sessions over the course of 3 weeks with the whole group. And that'll give us a chance for community and a chance to really share and support each other in what our goals are. But during that 3-week period, you'll have videos to watch, nothing too strenuous, not too long, with exercises and things that'll actually ignite this energy for you, and how to really work with Jupiter specifically for your chart. And like I said, you don't need to know any astrology. I'll be able to point out for you where it is in your chart and how you should be working with it. So it's a really good opportunity to work with me personally, and also be able to work with the Jupiter and Gemini energy over the next year. So if you're interested, just drop me a line at connect@zencuda.com. That's the word connect at ZENCUDA.com. Send me a little line, just say I'm interested in the course. How do I sign up? And we'll put you on the wait list. It is limited because this is a group that I want to work with, pretty intimately. So it'll give you a great opportunity to work with me. And so we'll have more details about that, but if you want to get put on the wait list. So onward to what our astrology is for the month of May. So I am going to bring up our chart for this month. If I can find out where that is. Okay, here we go. Sometimes it just seems like life is more complicated than it is, doesn't it? Not really, right? Okay. We make it complicated, don't we? All right. So here's the chart of the moment that you're all going to see on the screen. Here we are. Yay. I know it looks like Chinese to you guys, or a foreign language, or alien, but unless you're in China, then it looks good to you, right? So the sun is in Taurus going into Gemini, we see right here, and I'm going to give you all the key dates. But the thing that you really want to watch right now is this moon right here. That's going to head over here to Sagittarius. And when the moon is the moon is full in Sagittarius, that happens on the 23rd of this month. And that starts to ignite the energy that I've just been talking about with Jupiter in Sag, because Jupiter goes into, with Jupiter in, that starts to ignite the energy with Jupiter in Gemini, because of course Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So let's start out around a little bit earlier in the month. Let's start out just around today. I'm recording this on the 20th. And so we are just coming off a lot of Taurus energy. We had 5 planets in Taurus, which for those of you who maybe felt like we were kind of in heavy energy, or you felt like things were a little bit too grounded, too serious, you crack a joke and nobody laughs, that kind of energy. That's because we had 5 planets in Taurus. So all of these 5 planets that are in Taurus, they're still here right now, but as the week progresses, they're all going to start heading into the sign of Gemini. I hope you can see my little purple arrow here. And when they head into the sign of Gemini, that is going to cause each planet in turn, as it goes into Gemini, to trine with the planet Pluto. Now that's good energy. Pluto has been the center stage for a lot of years for us in the zodiac right now. And Pluto is in Aquarius, but it's only at 2 degrees and it's retrograde right now, which means it's going to go back to Capricorn for a very short period of time. And then it'll go eventually back into Aquarius. And when it goes back into Aquarius for the final time, it'll be there for the next 20 some odd years. But it's headed back to Capricorn to give us one last final chance to tie up all those loose ends, put the bow on the package, finish everything that has been started since 2008 that's been the continuous loop for us. So we have a lot of culminating energy with Pluto right now, and a lot of new beginning energy with Jupiter and all of these planets that are going to go into Gemini, which is an air sign. So as the Sun and Venus and Mercury and Jupiter all start to go into Gemini in the next few weeks, everything's going to feel much more refreshing and airy, because like I said, Gemini is that air sign. But we've still got Pluto over here in retrograde. So what that's going to do when these planets all trine Pluto is it's going to bring out some harmony for us in regards to our soul's desire. Pluto in retrograde will make us a little bit more contemplative. It'll make us more introspective about what we really want. But that's really a good thing, because this little planet over here, Jupiter, next to the Sun, which they're almost together right now, which is good because that ignites our meaning, our truth, our goals, our luck and benevolence. It also really helps us light up and welcome in a lot of new energy as it goes into Gemini. So how is that going to play in with this Pluto, which is making us introspective and bringing out our desires? It's going to give us the luck and benevolence and harmony we need, see these blue lines, in order to bring out from the dark and reveal what our soul purpose really is, what our soul's desire really is. Pluto in the chart is the soul. So when we have planets like Jupiter, which is benevolence, good luck, expansion, the Sun, which is our inner light, our solar light, our divine light, trining Pluto, which is the soul and bringing in our desires. In Taurus, that could have seemed a little bit heavy, earthy. But when it goes into Gemini, it's air. So we're going to start to get those aha moments, especially when Mercury goes in there. So let me tell you how this is going to happen. So on the 15th, Mercury actually caught up to Uranus. And when that happened on the 15th of May, you might have had some aha moments. There might have been a lot of disruptions. It could have caused an energy that brought something to light and to the surface for you that maybe felt a little uncomfortable. But in the long run, it's being done in order to show you that you have everything you need within yourself. This is going to be, these last few days in May, from like the 15th, even like around May 10th until up till now, the days to come this week, probably felt like an energy of discomfort, annoyance. Things were being revealed. You may have even been a little bit emotional. The 15th was Mother's Day. And now that energy is going to get lighter. But the reason why that energy was coming through for us was to show us the areas in our life that really need attention. What is it that's being broken apart? What is it that's really coming to light that's being deregulated or, decentralized, right? when we have something like, think of a big ball of energy, and then Uranus and Mercury come together and breaks it apart, because Uranus is an energy of that decentralization. It wants to break things apart. But why does it want to do that? Because all those bits have treasure in them. But when something's all compacted and together and we think it's reliable in a whole, but it's really not a service to us, it needs to break apart for us to see the truth, the light, and what's in it, bring what we need forward and leave the rest behind, let the debris field clear. So we've had these memory fields coming up, these big balls of energy that have been coming up, and these memory fields that have been showing us things that we really maybe don't want to look at, but we're being forced to look at. And the reason they're being broken apart and being decentralized with the energy of Venus and Jupiter, when they all, and the sun, when it all met up with that planet Uranus and Taurus, because Uranus is the great awakener. It's sudden, unexpected, explosive energy that comes in and breaks us apart, makes us feel like, what is going on? Where have I been taken to? I just completely don't understand this. Because we won't until it's decentralized and all broken up into bits, and we start looking at the little bits. We can't see what we need to see when it's all a big, huge whole. And we have an illusion about whatever that whole is, that whole big ball is. And by whole, I mean WHOLE, a whole of every energy, something encompassing something. We can't see what it is because we've got it all wrapped up in an illusion. And so a perfect example would be a relationship, for instance, that you're holding on to because you really believe it's secure for you. And all of a sudden, the last few days in May that we've had, up to now, you're seeing things that are making you take action. Or maybe it's a job and you don't really get treated well at that particular job, and you need to leave, but up until now, you really haven't had reason to, or haven't really had a look at it. You haven't been forced to do it. And suddenly certain things just happened in the last few days or a couple of weeks that forced you to look at this change. Now that energy is traveling into Gemini, which is an air sign. So now we're going to have what we need to take the action on the change, to understand the strategy of what we need to do to get to the change. And so if we can harness that energy of those planets going into Gemini, we really have a golden opportunity to go where we've never gone before and have strength and resilience and fortitude and bravery to go do it. Now, of course, we sometimes need support when we do that. And a lot of times in this energy, the people around you, the situations and environments around you that you've put into your life, that you have created for your life, through an identity that maybe was created by not your soul, but that environment, right? You create an environment, the environment creates you. Which is it? Now those things are coming to light because in the energy of all these planets going into Gemini, especially Jupiter being there for a year, it's really going to ignite your soul's intention and what your soul came here to do and why you're here, that soul space. And so what's going to happen is we're going to have to release some attachments. And the energy is working with us now to form an identity based in the soul space, based in what the soul intention is, instead of those illusions of security and environments that we thought we had to do. The job we were told we needed, can't live without, the reinforcement of the relationships that tell us that we're more into a material situation of life, or, don't be stupid and struggle financially, or all of those things, those terrible criticisms that we give ourselves while we're squashing down our soul's meaning and our soul's intention. And so in this energy, Jupiter going into Gemini is a huge thing. Well, we have the sun going there and Mercury going there, and eventually Uranus will follow, in end of 2025. But what happens is we have all of these energies going into a whole new cycle, while Pluto is going to go back into Aquarius for the next 20 years, where we just had a real little glimpse of it in the beginning of 2024, this year. And what's going to happen is that Aquarian energy is the same type of forward movement, but Aquarius is the pioneer. It is also an energy that comes in to decentralize and break apart anything that's not of our highest good. It's going to break apart the structures, the systems that don't work anymore. It's going to bring us superior artificial intelligence and galactic space invention, and maybe meeting galactic partners and all kinds of things in the next 20 years. But we've also got a job to do individually with this energy and make sure that as our environments and our world and the globe steps into this new time, which is so exciting, that we in our own personal life step up to our own responsibility. And that's why I'm doing this online course, because Jupiter, bottom line, in Gemini is an energy, especially when it's working with Pluto in Aquarius, is an energy about meaning and what is meaningful to us. It's no longer going to be about keeping up with the Joneses, what we have, what our annual 1099 looks like, how many homes we have, what kind of cars in our driveway. Jupiter in Gemini is all about meaning. It's all about higher learning. It's all about what does our soul really come here to do. It's about the expansion of that. It's about the expansion of not worrying about the support that we get from externals or the support that we get from the other. It's about the support we give ourselves and how do we speak to ourselves. Gemini is communication. Gemini is how do we speak our needs, our wants, and our desires that come from the authenticity of the soul to the other in relationship. How do we identify with what's meaningful to us? Do we put that off? Do we diminish it? Do we tell ourselves, oh, someday? And meanwhile, our soul is starving for the fulfillment of what's really meaningful to us. And how much do we put in front of ourselves that makes us procrastinate, forces that wet blanket feeling of pursuing what our soul's desire is? And how much do we use those distractions, those cumbersome things that we throw on the pile so that we don't listen to the soul? We can't hear it anymore. We don't hear those whispers in our ear. How much of us are doing that, right? That's human nature, to fill the jug, fill the vessel, our vessel, right? Fill ourselves with all of these things so we don't have to do the work to look at what's going to bring us into the soul's desire. And so we're here to fulfill our own essential needs. And that doesn't mean that we don't need anyone else. It doesn't mean that we are cold and heartless and independent to a fault. What it means is that we're in our own space. We're in the soul space, working for ourselves and working for our soul and obtaining the mission of what we really want to do with this soul, what we came here to do, what our soul is showing us that we came here to do. And we're not allowing other people to diminish that. And while our relationships and being loving and connecting with others in that part of humanity is also important, at the end of the day, living your soul's intention and being in the soul space is the embodiment of that, because now you will bring your fulfilled person in an authentic identity of what your soul wants to do in the soul space, the energy that I have dubbed Zenkuda, being really powerful about your Zen. And now you bring that person, that human, to the world. And wouldn't anyone in your life benefit more from that? Wouldn't anyone in your life be proud of you who is secure enough to understand that we're all here to do the same thing? And we support them while they're supporting their soul. And that's how, as my friend tells me, love is redeemed. And that is how love becomes abundant in our life. And that's why we're all here. We're not here to criticize ourselves. We're here to absorb criticism from others and not support each other. We're here to support each other. But we're also here to support ourselves, the space to do our work. And that's what Jupiter and Gemini is bringing us, that refreshment, that air to go out and really find what we want to do with meaning. And then create an environment and bring others in that are fully supportive of that while you support them. And really encourage them in their dreams. And that's Aquarian energy of uniqueness and acceptance of everyone's uniqueness. You know, if you want to quit your job and go out and darn purple socks and sell purple socks on Etsy, who am I to criticize that? Might be the best thing you ever did for yourself. You know, and by the same token, if you're someone who doesn't believe in God or doesn't believe in astrology, I'm not anyone to question or disparage that. If that belief is working for you and that's what your soul came here to believe, all the power to you. That's the universe we have to live in. supporting each other, no judgment, and allowing each other to be in the soul space. That's Jupiter and Gemini. And as the sun goes into Gemini and Mercury goes into Gemini, and all these planets travel through Gemini, they're going to be touching that energy and bringing that communication forward into all the other parts of the zodiac. So we have a year to really take advantage of this beautiful benevolent energy. Now, what's the downside to that? The downside to that is Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And wherever it is in your chart, if you're not on point with positivity, or you're not on point or in a really fabulous place, Jupiter can, when it passes over that part, expand the negative. Why? Not to harm us, to create healing. Because like I just said, things happen to teach us, right? Like that breaking up of energy so we can see the bits and learn from them. Well, when we have Jupiter transiting a part of our chart that's troublesome for us, and we haven't, grown up, put on our big girl panties, or put on, or pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and really looked at it and changed it. When Jupiter goes over that part, it's going to expand that energy to be more and more uncomfortable, because it wants your soul to come in and override your ego and change it for you. It wants you to take the initiative to learn what your soul came here to teach you. And that's why we have repeating energy. And that's why energy will repeat and repeat and repeat in our lives until we break it up. Uranus will come in, Jupiter will expand it, Uranus will break it apart, other planets will be transiting it your whole life and repeat it in all different ways. But it's doing that repetitive theme so that you're forced to look at it and take care of it. Whatever your issue is, if you have an insecurity, if you have a codependency, if you have an anger issue, if you have an addiction, if you have any kind of a challenge that's repetitively affecting your life in a negative way, Jupiter will transit that area of your chart and expand that to make it intolerable, to force you to finally heal it, change it, and become better at it. And that's just, the opposite end of the energy, that polarization. So we're here to really integrate the energy. So the sun joined Uranus on the 15th, the 18th, which was Saturday, the sun joined Jupiter, and that really expanded this energy heading into Gemini. This is now the sun at that point in the last couple of days was at the midpoint between Uranus and Jupiter. This condenses the energy between Jupiter and Uranus. So over the weekend or Friday, Saturday, you may have seen a little bit more of the energy coming and repeating from what we had on April 20th, when we had that big Uranus and Jupiter connection. So if you had something disruptive happen April 20th, it may have repeated this weekend or going into the weekend. Now we're going to start moving away from that energy. Today, which is the 20th, the sun goes into Gemini. Happy birthday, all of our Gemini people. This is a great energy. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Gemini energy. Many people feel that Gemini energy is, scattered. They're like, the sparkly energy, like, easily distracted. And while that is true, it's not always a detriment. It is sometimes with Jupiter energy, we do feel a little more scattered. We'll be flitting from thing to thing. We'll want to multitask because Gemini is all about multiplicity. But the reason why energy of Gemini is like that is because it's curious. It's curiosity. And just like I was saying before about how, when we have something we want to do, usually it originates in imagination. And then that imagination gets to be, we build the potential of that into form, right? That's how you create. And we create with creator energy. Well, when we have an energy that comes in, and like this energy of the sun going into Gemini and Gemini energy, it's an energy of curiosity. So partly that goes with that, right? We have imagination. If we're not curious about something, we don't pursue it. So the Gemini energy is a very vital energy of curiosity and questioning. Because without that, we wouldn't expand. We wouldn't know where to go to find information. We wouldn't be seekers. And I know if you're watching this channel and if you follow my work, you are absolutely a seeker, as I am. We're seeking answers. We're seeking what's meaningful to us. We're seeking that soul space. So in that, we have a responsibility not to make our curiosity a negative and say, oh, I'm so distracted. While we have this Jupiter and Gemini energy for a year, and while we have a lot of planets headed to Gemini over the next month or so, think about when you get that scattered feeling, like grounding yourself in the thought of well, I'm a little bit all over the place. What am I really trying to accomplish? What am I really looking for? What am I really seeking here? And one of the tricks that I've learned to use, because I, am a Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, which sometimes can be a very expansive energy, and I'll flip. And my, like I said, sixth and seventh house are Gemini. So you can even tell in these recordings, sometimes like I lose my train of thought or I'm all over the place a little bit, but then I bring it back in, like I just did. Jupiter and Gemini. So we're Sag rising. So one of the things I learned is I will have a habit to ruminate, which is like repetitive thoughts, or keep thinking about something, and it'll be a distractant for me. For instance, maybe I'm trying to do a video, but I know I'm out of milk and eggs and I have to go to the store later, and I'm be doing the video saying, don't forget to go to the store, don't forget to go to the store, like all day. So what I've learned is I get up and just go to the store and then come back and do the video. I get rid of whatever the rumination is. Like today, for instance, I had something that I had to do prior to doing this video. And I knew if I would be on the video thinking about, don't forget to do that, don't forget to do that. So I immediately did it before the video so that now my mind is clear. So one of the things I learned about the distracting energy of the Gemini archetype is what Gemini wants from me is me to take care of what it's going to keep poking at me. So I go do it, rearrange my schedule if I can to accommodate that. Like for instance, I'll give you an example. If you're constantly distracted by the fact that you need to go to the gym, then wake up a half hour earlier and go to the gym first in the day. If you have a client who's in the back of your mind right here all the time because you know you have to call her, but you really don't want to call her, but she's going to distract you all day, and you're going to be doing this and like, oh, I have to call that client. Oh, I have to call that client. Oh, I have to call that client. Call a client first thing in the morning. So in other words, that distracting energy of Jupiter, it's curiosity. It's making you be curious about doing something that you're not doing and distracting you all day. So just go do it. All right. That's really the way I learned to handle my Sagittarius rising ruled by Jupiter and my Gemini energy. I give it what it wants. And what it wants is a little bit of everything. So instead of having my whole day be a mishmash of a pizza pie of a million different things, I methodically do what I have to do. And that's also being fully present. One of the things that Gemini energy wants from us is being present. And it may not sound like it because Jupiter is multiplicity and it is duality and it is, all of the sparkly things and the distractions. But like I just said it before, it amplifies that. So we have to look at it and say, oh, this is a bit too much. It's overwhelming. This isn't how I want to be. I want to be grounded and present. And it brings us into that. That's really the best use of the energy, because the curiosity of Gemini, if you focus where it wants to be, will probably give you some beautiful treasure and aha moments. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the mind. So in this energy, and especially with Jupiter there for the next year, you are going to have your best ideas. You are going to be able to figure out the formulas you never were able to figure out before. It's a beautiful energy. And God knows we need beautiful energy, right? There is also some challenging energy coming in. But what I want to talk about is as these planets all start to egress into Gemini and touch that trine with Pluto, that also, watch what happens, and I'll give you the dates, but watch what happens, because that is a foreshadowing and a little bit of a glimpse into the future of what Pluto is going to bring into your chart in Aquarius, and it will be there for 20 years. It goes in later this year for the final time. It's there now, but it's just retrograding back to Capricorn for a very brief time, so we can tie up those loose ends from 2008 to the beginning of 2024, when Pluto was in Capricorn and giving us all a bit of a run for our money, taking down structures and all kinds of things in our life. So as we have those trines, we're going to find that that's a foreshadowing of the energy ahead of what Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring you in your life. Now, like I said, on the 20th, which is today, we've got the sun trining Pluto, the sun going into Gemini and trining Pluto on the 22nd, goes into Gemini today, the 20th, sun, and then it goes into that trine with Pluto on the 22nd, which is Wednesday. That's going to bring up our desires. It's going to emphasize the Pluto in Aquarius energy. It's really that Pluto in Aquarius is really holding its power with these trines. And don't forget, Pluto in Aquarius is about disrupting the old, bringing in the new, showing us where our sense of community can be, showing us where we're excluding things, showing us what inclusion looks like, diversity, uniqueness. Individuation, what does individuation mean? The word individuation basically in this context means accepting and allowing yourself to be the individual you came here to be. It is really going into our soul's preparation and our soul's intention for us to activate those things that are us, genuinely us. My work in the Zenkuda community, with all of you Zenkudas, and getting together my YouTube channel. I'm revamping every website. I'm revamping all kinds of things, doing online courses, creating community for you. That is my soul's intention in this life, for the world, not for me. I'm not looking to be any kind of influencer by any means, not looking for fame or fortune. I'm looking to inspire people. And if that means I inspire 2 people, it's fine with me. That's my soul's intention then. So I'm hoping that the content I deliver is really positive and valuable to you and inspires you and seeds the change that you need to find your own soul intention and your own soul space. That is my mission. That's what Zenkuda is. It's living in soul space, developing, unraveling, unwrapping your full potential in this lifetime for where you want to go. Like I said, you want to knit purple socks and sell them on Etsy? That's your thing. And it gives you joy. Like, why shouldn't you be doing that? So, and I believe when you are in that joy and you're in the purpose that is really authentic to you, I believe the abundance comes. You're not going to worry about material world or 3-dimensional or relationships or things like that, because when you're in your soul space, you're like so high in consciousness and you're so high up in the alignment with such a higher source than us that good's going to come from that, So 20th, the sun goes into Gemini, and the 22nd, it trines with Pluto. Venus in Gemini, which went in, I believe, earlier in the week. Venus in Gemini is going to, got to look at the chart at the moment. Hold on a sec. Venus in Gemini is going to trine Pluto on the 25th. All right. And that's going to be a big deal because we do have that full moon around that time on the 23rd. So that's going to be a lot of, just bringing up the chart at the moment to look at in my notes, because I know I had it on the screen for you guys, but I just want to watch it while I do it so I don't misspeak. So yeah, here we go. I want to give you guys the best info I can. So where's my Gemini? So no, Venus is still, as of today, in the last degrees of Taurus. And look where those last degrees of Taurus are in your chart, because that's really significant now, because that's where all this is happening. So I'll give you the dates for everything. So we've got on the 5/17, we've got Mercury headed to Taurus. Mercury goes into Taurus. Yep, see that? That happened last Saturday or last Friday. And that squared Pluto then. So that also was why we might have had a little bit of a difficult time this weekend with people. That was bringing in some definite exacerbating the energy of, words and wars of words and things like that. So I want to jump over to the last few days. So we've got this big energy with Venus, Uranus, the Sun, and Jupiter all reenacting that April 20th conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus. So remember, that was the seeds that we planted. It was like, take a risk, be outside the box, experience unusual things. It's also feeding into some craziness. We had a lot of things, if you've been watching the Trump trial or things like this, it's almost surreal, some of the things that have been happening in the world. That's why, because that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened on the 20th keeps getting re-hit and re-hit as this energy all meets up again in the sky. So look at those last degrees of Taurus in your chart. This is really about that energy and making the best of that energy when you're going through that discomfort. Really look at that and see what you want to bring forward and what you want to leave behind, because the world is really shaking us up. Remember, my last show was about that energy quake. This is all that energy shaking us up, so that we have to absolutely look at change and interpret it. So right now we're in a place where big ideas will come, but they're going to be limited by where Saturn is in the sky, because Saturn is the limiter, it's the authority. So in the next few days, if you start to get ideas about something, let them stew, let them marinate a little bit, because in this energy, we can find a lot of illusion still lingering, and you may not know what's true and what's not true. So something that sounds like a really great idea could be misleading. And by the same token, you can mislead other people. So be really careful of your words. And that's for the rest of this week up until Memorial Day, which happens this Monday for us here in the United States. This is an energy this week where you really want to be careful. Think before you speak. Make sure that you are allowing others to really talk to you in a way that you can interpret it correctly. Because just like when I say to you that, you need to be careful of what you say, we also need to be careful of what we hear, because other people need to be careful of what they say. So this is really an energy the next several days, and this is going to go probably about a week to 10 days, where we're really going to be misinterpreting each other, and words can be very misleading, and we can be misled, and we can mislead others. So really be careful. Like I would say from the 19th until after like the 23rd, 24th, maybe even into that next week, really be careful of your speech and your communication. Because all of those planets in Gemini moving towards that trine with Pluto, when Mercury goes in there, it's going to make it all about communication. So also this week we have Mars crossing the nodes of the moon. When Mars crosses the nodes of the moon, that's a fated endeavor. It's an energy of karma. It's an energy that activates a portal for us, while all this beautiful energy is coming into Jupiter. And it sounds really wonderful, and it sounds like this is going to bring us benevolence and good luck. That is true. But we all know that great change never comes without leaving something behind, detaching for something, and can be very bittersweet. So when you look at Mars touching the nodes, that's the karmic part. That's the part of, yes, you're being pushed into your destiny, but it means leaving behind some of the things you thought you needed, you wanted, you desired. And that can be a little bit painful, but keep looking forward, because it's all happening for our higher good. This can be very difficult. The sun is in Gemini. We have a lot of Gemini energy going in there, while Mars is crossing the nodes, which are in Aries, which is fire. This can be, sudden. It can be, Mars is in its home sign there, and this is a lot of power. It's like firepower. So one of the things I'm going to say, and what I learned the hard way last weekend, Mother's Day weekend, is don't put yourself in the line of fire. When we have a sky like this where people can say things or really want to, fight you or be defensive with you, don't put yourself in the line of fire. Really take that to heart, because this is one area where that can happen. Remember, as I'm talking about this energy of change and this energy of being propelled into our soul space, which is what this year and next is all going to be about, and we're talking about it, and as I'm doing that, you're internalizing it and, thinking about it and applying it to your own life, your own situations, your own environments. But other people are going through this as well, but they may not be as conscious or aware of what it is as you. So, whenever we're pushed somewhere that is uncomfortable, someone who is not having an awareness of what that work is about, or isn't really understanding or learned about a soul space environment, or about purpose and higher power and spirituality and belief systems like that, they're going to be really uncomfortable in this energy and tend to lash out. Whenever we're picked on or pushed or prodded, it's like if you have a physical ailment and you're in pain, you're not going to be your best self, right? So be aware of that in the world and have compassion for that. Like I said before, accept that. There are people who are not on the path of self-awareness and self-awakening, and that's okay. That's their journey. They're not bad people. They're not people any less than me or you or anything. They just haven't learned what you might know already. And it's also not our job to always reach back and teach those people. We don't want to step into someone else's karma, but we can also be the best self we can as a teaching tool. And that means having compassion when they don't. Don't put yourself in the line of fire. Don't be the punching bag for someone who is going through that awakening that hopefully will come out the other end to a better place. But it's not your job to stick around and be the whipping board for that. And I have to say that because this energy is so polarized that certain people who are maybe in more of the lower octave of energy, where they are in more of selfishness or greed or fear. Fear is a huge part of this. So as we are afraid to change, have compassion for those who are so afraid they can't. and realize what your role is in that. May not be individually with that person to coax them or help them or show them. It may just be to hold space. It may just be to live your best life as an example. That's for you to discern. But I just want to put that out there, because as we're growing and as we're finding our soul space and our meaning for life, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people who aren't doing that or are afraid to do that or unable to do that for whatever reason, doesn't mean they're wrong and we're right. It doesn't mean we're better and they're like, not good people. That's just their journey, and we can learn to love those people, and we can learn to have compassion for those people, but also compassion and love for ourselves by not putting ourselves in the line of fire. So that's really going to be prevalent in this energy. And realize, again, like, even if someone doesn't support you in your hopes and dreams and wishes, that's okay. That's the universe showing you that you can support you and you're enough. You are enough to get this done. You are enough to show the meaning of what your life really is about. You are enough to climb the higher mountain, scrape together what you need to scrape together, shovel whatever you need to shovel. You are enough. And if for some physical reason you can't do any of those things, well, then you're going to find a way to pay someone else to do it, or you're going to find a way to exchange with someone to do it, or you're going to find a way to get into an environment where it's no longer needs to be done. And I know that that sounds very abstract, but I also know that as you're listening to this, it's going to resonate in some way individually, differently with each and every one of you. So then we come on this beautiful full moon in Sagittarius. And that full moon in Sagittarius brings quite a lot of energy with it. It's a big full moon because remember, Sag is ruled by Gemini. Remember, Sag is ruled by Jupiter. So this is a really big full moon. So the full moon in Sagittarius comes in on May 23rd. It's at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. So it's just coming into that little Sag place, and it's going to stay there after the full moon for a couple of days. So we've got this beautiful environment of expansion. So now for this full moon, what I would do is some kind of a ritual that really puts you in touch with your fire inside, your passion to really get in touch with your meaning, because Sagittarius is our identity in regards to belief systems. What is true for you? During this full moon, you're going to see a lot of things come out that are about what truly is meaningful on a soul level for you and what's not. You're also going to see things across the globe come out, in the news and other places that are going to be about truth. And what is truth? Illusions are going to fall down from the sky and go bye-bye. We're going to see some real moments here. This is going to be reality. Whereas for a few days prior and after this moon, we still have energy of Neptune playing, which is illusion and can make us very fuzzy. That's why I said before, those bright ideas that you have, let them marinate a little bit. After the full moon, they're going to get a little clearer and a little clearer. And then towards the very end of the month, you're probably going to take action on them. But around the 23rd, where we have this big, expansive full moon in Sagittarius, it's also aligning with Venus at the 29th degree of Taurus. That's Earth energy. So what I would say to you is, if the weather allows in your part of the universe, maybe do a fire ceremony or a fire pit outside. Be very careful. If it doesn't, maybe fireplace inside, but light a candle. But I would absolutely bring in elements of fire and earth in this energy. You're bringing in the fire, the expansion of Jupiter. Now, Jupiter expansion can also be too much of a good thing. That's why I say bring in earth as well to ground it. So whatever the seed of what you want to plant and what your true soul meaning is life and what you want to accomplish is, I would write that down. I would put a little soil or dirt in it to ground it in Gaia, in Mother Earth, to make it real and three-dimensional. And then I would burn that in the fire, not to dispose of it or to end it, but to give it life, ignite it, and then feel it within you and take the action. My allergies are so bad today, between itching and scratching my face and sneezing, and my throat's hoarse, and a lot of pollen in the air here in New York. So I would ground that energy in, using earth and igniting it with fire and putting it out into the ethers, almost like it has its own plasma. And now you're going to bring potential into form over the next year as Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius in that full moon, ignited your meaning, your hope, your wishes deep in your soul space and in the world. And now as we work with Jupiter and Gemini, it will expand it and bring it into form, potential into form, dream, imagination into reality, fully supported by you and your soul. That's the full moon. This is also about sudden impulsiveness with Jupiter. So make sure, come next Monday that you're going to really be grounded in that earth, that soil that we wrapped our dream in. The earth is going to nurture it and grow it and help us ground it, right? And then after that full moon, we've got Venus going into Gemini. That's the day, the 25th, Venus goes into Gemini. This is intensity and power now. We're starting to really ramp up that Gemini energy. How beautiful is that after that full moon? We've got anything around that 24th and 25th date, anything that's around 18 degrees also in your chart is going to be very powerfully intercepted because we have Mars at the 18th degree of Aries meeting up in a sextile with a semi-sextile, which is a very powerful energy, with Saturn in Pisces at 18 degrees. So whatever is 18 degrees anywhere in your chart is going to be ignited and really powerfully intense in this energy. But on the 25th, we have Venus going into Gemini, and then it trines Pluto. Right after that full moon, we've got Venus, the things we love, the meaning of our life, our values, what makes us feel safe and secure and beautiful, coming into a trine with our soul, Pluto, the desires of the soul, the intention of why you're here. Very, very powerful energy. This is an energy where we find the desire of what's hidden. So maybe you've done that intention on the full moon on the 23rd, but you don't really know what your soul's intention is. And maybe the full moon had you set up something that said, please, God, higher power, spirit, give me the energy or bring me the energy and the messages from Jupiter and Gemini to know what my soul purpose is. Now, when the 25th comes around and Venus goes into that, it brings in through that trine with Pluto what those desires are. It will show you. So be careful and watch the messages. And then on the 25th, Jupiter is still sextiling Neptune, that planet that's making us a little fuzzy. So the ideas haven't come to fruition yet. They're still a little foggy. What's true? What's not true? What's illusion? What's not illusion? But then on the 25th, 26th, depending on where you live, Jupiter goes into Gemini. So can you see how all of this trail of energy going into Gemini starts to touch the soul's intention, touch the meaning of your life, set your goal, set your desire. And then as each one goes in and trines Pluto, it's bringing the desire up, revealing the desire from under the surface. And then finally, when Jupiter goes in there on the 25th, 26th, that's the opportunity. Everything looks good. It's about, it's exciting, but we have to discern and be careful what's real because we've still got Neptune playing into that. And we sense something can be really big. We sense it coming in, but Neptune's still going to show us a little bit of that illusion. It's still going to bring us a little bit of discomfort. Well, yeah, you want this, but you got to get rid of this. Yeah, you want this, but you have to go through this. Yeah, you want the fire, you want the passion, you want the dream, but you got to walk through the forest first. Something like that. So be careful of deception. Once we have all those planets in Gemini, Neptune and Pisces does come in a little bit. So we really have to make sure that we're biding our time. This isn't a sprint. This is a slow, methodical, strategic, getting our goal in place energy. We've still got Pluto in retrograde. So it's going to make us introspective. This is the time to do that. So now by the 27th, we've got the sun. All that Jupiter energy is starting to square Chiron. All of those planets will do that as they pass through Gemini. That can be annoying. We're learning our lessons. That's the part, the back end of that Jupiter, benevolence, good luck. In order to have all you want, you got to let go of other things, right? So now we're getting the lesson towards the last few days of the month, and that energy is going to keep seesawing and going back and forth. But the energy of the month really does close with that collection of energy in Gemini. We've got the sun, Venus, and Jupiter. They've all either headed for or in a trine with Pluto at some point over the next several days or week. And we've still got that moon in Pisces telling us, okay, you've got all these bright ideas and you've got all this stuff, but how are you really going to do it unless you change this, right? Got that? So we still have a little something in the way. It can be a little frustrating, but listen, we don't have to do it today. Like that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. This is an energy where you're going into a soul space type energy and looking to manifest energy for the rest of your life. This is creating the life you want to create, that you've always wanted to step in, your dreams coming true on a soul level. So that doesn't get done in a week. That's a very, sometimes a long process, you know, but if you don't keep moving forward, you don't do it. So then on the 30th, which is a powerful day as well, because we have Mercury joining Uranus in Taurus at that point. And what that is, a very big conjunction on the 30th, because what that has to do with a lot with words and sudden unexpected things. So really on the 30th of May, we close out the month. Be super, super careful. It can also be money, material things. Venus and Jupiter are in Gemini now. It could be overspending. It could be over speaking. I'm just looking down at my notes. It's surprises. Venus is now overtaking the sun. So that can, it's gone past there. So now you have the message from the sun. You have something lit up. Now Venus is going forward in order to bring it to other places. That could be your hopes, your dreams, your desires. It can also be something that you need to take care of. But regardless, on that May 30th day, and for those days that surround that, you want to think before you speak, think before you hit send, think before you have the conversations you want to have. If you're giving a seminar or a speech of any kind, make sure that you're really trying to be very cautious. Deliberate is the word I'm looking for, about your words and what you want to communicate. Very important to do that, because that can be a day of a little bit of surprises. But at the same time, this is all good energy. Just remember, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So we want to make sure we're grounding things in earth and being temperate. And then on the 31st, Uranus trines Pluto. And when Uranus trines Pluto at the end of May, it opens up everything into June's energy. And we'll talk about that on the next Soul Space podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. You can find me on Facebook at Zenkuda Soul Space, on Instagram at Zenkuda Official, and also on my YouTube channel, Zenkuda, where I have a ton of videos for you to watch. But if you're interested in that online course about how to work with all this energy with Gemini and Jupiter and Gemini over the next year, if you're really looking to find out how to work in that class and with that energy, definitely drop me a line at connect@zenkuda, ZENCUDA.com. And I will return your email and put you on the wait list. Thanks so much. Space is limited, so get on that right away. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week in the Soul Space right here, Monday nights at 7 p.m.